Welcome to your 10th Python web scraping tutorial, and in this tutorial we're going to be using MySQL DB, which is a library for Python. If you don't already have this installed on your Windows machine, you can go out to the World Wide Web and download it for free, and you can get an executable. And if you have a Linux machine, you actually already have this installed if you have Ubuntu or a major distribution. And if you have Mac, I think you may have something installed already to access MySQL because it is Unix based. And so I have just imported MySQL DB, and we have the results of the 9th web scraping tutorial. So what we actually have to do is, it's not so easy as just replacing this print statement with a database insert statement. What we actually have to do is we have to connect to the database first of all. And before we connect to it, we actually have to have a database to connect to. So if you don't already have a database, you need to go to your hosting provider and you need to create one in the control panel. I already have one created, and I have a database called stock data, and this program I'm using is called Navicat for MySQL, and we're just going to create a new table in the stock data database. And it takes a field, and the field we need is symbol. Type, we'll make it varchar. Where's varchar? Varchar. Okay. So now we'll save this database, and we need a name for the table, so we'll just call it tutorial. Okay. And it takes a while to save. And next we need to connect to our database. And the way we do this is we'll say con equals mysqldb.connect, and then it takes some parameters, and the parameters is host equals mysql.cars.com, user equals Chris Reeves, password equals Florida 128, and DB equals stock data. And I'm actually not going to give you my password, username, or hostname. So what I've done is I've created a file in our threads directory called login.txt. And basically what login.txt contains is a string that is separated by spaces containing the host name, the username, and the password, because I'm not going to give that out on YouTube. So what we need to do is open that file. So I'll say login info equals open threads / login.txt .read, and then I want to split login.info. So login info equals logininfo.split, and next I will set host equal to logininfo of 0, user equals logininfo of 1, and password equals logininfo of 2. Next I will replace these constants down here that obviously aren't the correct hostname, user, and password with my real username, hostname, and password. And And the reason I put in those fake login credentials was just to show you what it will look like when you actually do this and you're not doing a tutorial for YouTube. Actually, that's supposed to be two. So now we can just try adding something to our database. And we're actually not going to use this whole big program that we wrote before. So we'll make a new file and we'll just throw this in there for now. It's always good just to have a place to throw your code that you're working on. So connect, MySQL connect, and next we're just going to try to insert something into our database. So right now, open up tutorial, and we can see that there's absolutely nothing in tutorial. So what we need to do is say query equals insert into the table name tutorial values. No, actually, first we need the field that we're going to insert into. So symbol values, and then the value we want to insert is AAPL. Next we say x equals con.cursor. Then we say x.execute query. So we're executing our SQL query. And then we'll say row equals x.fetch all. And basically row.fetch all is if you're making a if you're requesting data from your database as opposed to inserting data into your database, row will contain the rows of data that you're returning. So let's try running this. Exec file threads/threads.py, and now is the moment of truth. There should be Apple when I refresh this, and wow, there it is, Apple. We have successfully entered our data into the database. And next what we can do is grab our multi-threaded program from before, go back to threads.py, and we're actually going to leave all this stuff down at the bottom. So what we actually don't want to do is we actually can't just replace this print with a insert statement because our program is multi-threaded. What we actually have to do is populate some sort of data structure, and then at the very end go through the data structure and insert everything, because it's really difficult to do multi-threaded database queries because they have to be asynchronous. And also, the database connection itself, the database will get confused which thread it's connected to. So we're going to define a global map. So we'll say gmap equals curly braces. And some people call these dictionaries, hash maps, whatever you want to call it. It's mapping a string into something. So what we're going to say is results equals re.findAll. Instead of printing the price, we're going to say gmap of ur equals results of 0. and then we'll save this. Or actually, we'll try to do that. So we'll say try this, and then accept exe we'll just print out got an error. And now we can try this. Actually, at the end we can print out, just print everything out. So we will say for key in gmap.keys, print gmap of key, and we also want to print key, so print key, comma, gmap of key, and that should print out the symbol and price. So let's try running this. And it has to go through everything before it prints anything out. So these are just the errors we'll be seeing right now. Might take a while to get through everything. The connected party didn't properly respond after a period of time. Okay, so wow. Okay, so it just printed everything out at once because it finished everything. And that's actually what we want it to do. It stored everything perfectly in our data structure. So that works correctly. And we actually want to put this insert statement in our this for loop down here, because we want all of the multi-threaded stuff completely separate from our I/O. And I don't know if you know this, but it's usually good to separate your I/O from your computation. So you don't want to have stuff printing out to your screen in your multi-threaded piece of your program, and you don't want to have like entering stuff multi-threaded from your keyboard or something, because that just gets way too complicated. And that's not what we're about over here. We're about making things as easy as they can possibly be. So yeah, we just want to put this whole connect statement above here, because we don't want to be connecting to our database 50,000 times. And we actually want to do this part of our code 50,000 times. So insert into tutorial symbol values AAPL. We actually want to split our code here. Values query, and then we can say query equals query plus we want a open, we want a, well, our symbol is a string, so we need to put it in these single quotes, and then inside the single quotes we want to put our symbol, and the symbol is actually the key of the map. So for key in gmap.keys, we want to put key, and then we need the close parenthesis. So we'll put close parenthesis outside of this single quote. And this should basically insert all of the symbols into our database. So let's try this. Alt P. And let's get our database open. And remember, it's not going to insert anything until the very end of all these multi-threaded queries. I mean multi-threaded requests to Yahoo. So it should insert all at once. And we can actually build a better structured, a much better structured query than this, than one that inserts everything separately. What we really want is something that builds a very long query string and then sends it to our database once, and then the database will perform all of the different actions that it's supposed to. So it doesn't have to keep talking back and forth, which is actually really slow. Okay, so here you can see it's actually entering all of these symbols into our page. And if we want to keep the price too, we need to add another field. So go to File, Design Table, and there's probably something similar if you're using GoDaddy or another hosting provider. And then add new field, and we'll call it last, and it's a double. Because why not? We have plenty of memory, so why don't we store a pretty large, huge integer? We don't have to make it a float. Like, I could make it a float if I wanted to and save some memory, but I mean, it's $15 a month for hosting regardless of how much space I use, so I might as well use as much space as I possibly can. So I'll save this, and then I will go back to my program, symbol, comma, last, values, query plus this, and then we'll actually have to split our string again, key plus, we need a comma, and this is actually it doesn't need to be a string, so we can just make it a number. So we'll just say plus gmap of key. And we'll see if this works. Alt P. Okay, it seems to be working pretty well. And this is actually a sloppy way to insert data into your database, because we really shouldn't be making multiple insert statements to our database. We should just be inserting once. We shouldn't be making how many, 595 insert statements. That's probably going to bog down our server's memory pretty quickly. And that's something we don't want to do. So let's go to our database, or actually our data table, and we can make this a little bigger and refresh. And we can see we have the last price stored in our database, which is great. Yeah, so pretty cool. And what we might want to do is, in the next tutorial, we're going to be making a more efficient way to insert data into our database, so it's not making how many 500 different requests to our database. It will just put all of these requests. It will just construct a string, and then that string will be our query string, and it will just send all this data over all at once, and it'll be much faster. It'll be super fast. So thank you for watching your 10th web scraping tutorial, and follow me on Twitter.